Well, good morning, everybody. Christy Nizer, Motor Vehicle Administrator, and Governor Moore's Highway Safety Rep. We're glad to be here with you for our quarterly Vision Zero meeting. We'll go around the room and do introductions first. So I'll start off with Tim.
Good morning, everybody. Tim Kearns, Vision Zero Coordinator and Director of the Highway Safety Office.
Good morning, Shubha Chandar, Maryland Department of Health. I'm in environmental health, but on the public health side of the agency, which is I'm happy to discuss in more detail in the future. It's a very large agency. I think you guys may be familiar that it's the size of your own agency here at MDOT. Glad to be here.
Janet Bayhoof, Director of Crash Court, grantee of the Highway Safety Office, and here today to wrap up the SHSP on delivery.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go back there, Cindy.
Cindy Birch, Baltimore Metropolitan Council Safety Center. Kim Bailey, Aviating Safety Data Analyst.
Cliff Jacobs, Impaired Driving Program Manager, Maryland Highway Safety Office.
Rachel Andrus, Acting Communications Section Manager for the Highway Safety Office.
Myra Weeman, Deputy Director of Highway Safety Office.
Anna Lewandowski, Director of Strategy, MDA.
Bruce, you want to go? And then we'll sneak back.
Bruce Gardner, Executive Director of the Maryland Transportation Authority.
Cedric Ward, State Highway Administration, Officer of Traffic and Safety.
Dave Ryan, Maryland State Police Traffic Incident Management Commander.
Jonathan Rogers, MDOT Secretary's Office, Policy Advisor.
Terry Seuss with the State Highway Administration. I'm the Deputy Chief Operations Officer.
Benwood Tafar, Senior Safety Officer, State Highway Administration.
Tim Richards, Section Manager for Safety Programs at the Maryland Highway Safety Office.
Mark Wall, Occupant Protection Distracted Driving Program Manager at the Highway Safety Office.
Do you want to focus on?
I see somebody saying it's tough to hear us. Maybe the folks at the outer, can you hear me okay? It could be that the folks who are on the outside of the room aren't being heard. Yeah, okay. All right, so what we'll do is we'll make sure that as folks are speaking, they come to the table just to be heard a little bit better. Tim, do you want to run through who's online, just so we know who's there? We do know we have a few more people joining us in person who are
We may have a lot. So, yeah, I will go in the order that you're on our screen. So if you don't mind unmuting and introducing yourselves real quick if you can. We'll start with Steve Rootsbeck. Oh, they can't unmute.
okay.
So we'll do it this way. If you would like to just type your name and affiliation in the chat, we'll know who you are and who you're with.
Very good. All right.
We can do it that way. And as we go along, if you would like to, we do have a bigger crowd than usual. I guess that's our 2026 resolution. If you would like to, if you have any questions as we go along, please type them in the chat. We have folks monitoring the chat during the whole session. So if you have any questions, please type them in there and we'll be able to address them when we get to that point.
And we can
Okay. All right, so thanks everybody. It's great to see such a big crowd. We're also joined by our State Highway Administrator. Will, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? Perfect timing.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Will Pine, State Highway Administrator, and apologies for being late. I had new employee orientation, 72 people, yay. Yeah. So, it's good. So, thank you.
Again, we appreciate everybody being with us this morning, taking time out of your busy schedules for this important topic. As we start 2026, I think it's great timing that we are, coming together and having this conversation about highway safety and our goal to reduce traffic fatalities to zero in Maryland. Tim's going to start off. Dr. Kearns will give us an update in terms of where we are. Some good news from last year. Still not where we want to be, but at least we are moving in the right direction, which is certainly positive, and always like to focus on the number of lives that have been saved. We certainly know what we've lost, but it is positive to see lives saved on our roadways. So turn it over to Dr. Kearns.
Thank you, Kristen. So the calendar year 2025 just closed. Obviously, we will still have some crash reports coming in. We do follow the fatality analysis reporting system guidelines, so there are 30 days from the time that the crash occurred. If the fatality happens in that time, they'll be counted in the numbers. But as Christy said, we did see some pretty significant progress in 2025 compared to previous years. As of today, we are standing at 475 fatalities, which is an 18% reduction. It's also the third fewest number of fatalities we've seen on Maryland roads in the last decade. So 2025 was a pretty successful year. And we've been asked already what led to that reduction. It is kind of a combination of efforts. Obviously, we've had continued safety messaging out there. The Be the Driver campaign continues to be shown throughout the state, along with our partners having messaging out there, as well as automated enforcement, and the messaging that has gone around that over the past year has helped to lead to a little bit of reduction in speeds. We have seen an uptick in law enforcement partnerships out there. There have been more traffic stops, more warnings and citations issued over the past year. So all of these and a number of efforts as well, quick build projects and improved safety street designs. The Complete Streets project has been completed. So there's a lot of positive things that we have out there. The seatbelt use rate is up a little bit as well. It is at least the highest seatbelt use rate we've had in the past 10 years. It might go further back than that. But so everything is pointing in a good direction as well, so as we head into 2026. So just a couple of more numbers.
And just to emphasize the point that Tim made, these are certainly not final numbers. We will come out with a release from the Department of Transportation in the next several weeks, but there is a extensive effort of reaching out to law enforcement agencies, just making sure that we've captured all the reports. There might be some pending things out there in addition just the fatalities that happened late in the year. Maybe some investigations are taking a little bit longer. So we need to do that due diligence, so don't want anybody to anticipate that where we are today is where we're going to be ultimately. That being said, we have hovered pretty consistently about 18 to 20%, so we're hopeful that we stay around that overall in terms of reduction, but just want to make sure everybody's clear. There will be an announcement at some point coming out. These are not final numbers, and so we don't want anybody to run with those numbers thinking that's where we're going to wind up.
We did have a question about VMT. I know we don't have VMT for all of 2025 yet, but for the first 3 quarters, do you have an idea if we were up or down compared to 24?
I do not.
I thought we were pretty. I don't think there's a significant change one way or the other. So if somebody is looking at what our fatality rate will be, it will be lower than it was in 2024. The fatalities went down. Probably more significantly than there is any change.
I think Doug just said it was comparable.
Yeah. Up by 2.2%. So yeah, the fatality rate will have gone down. So even though we've had slightly more exposure on the roadways, fatalities still went down. So that's a good sign. Also a good sign, pedestrian fatalities showed a real significant decrease at 163 in 2024, which was one of the higher numbers we've had over the recent period, down to a preliminary number of 104. In 2025, bicyclist fatalities, unfortunately, still remained about the same, but when we're looking at smaller numbers, it's harder to see significant changes with those. Motorcycle crashes, motorcycle fatalities, although also showed a pretty significant decrease. 48 is a pretty low number for Maryland for motorcycle fatalities. So progress was made pretty much all across the board in 2025. So something to keep us going forward in 2026. Which is the perfect lead-in to where our next presentation, which will be by Janet Bayhuth. Her company helped us to develop the 2026 to 2030 Strategic Highway Safety Plan. I'm going to hand it over to her and let her talk about it. The plan has been submitted to Federal Highway. I heard from Federal Highway yesterday. They expect to have the review done by the end of the month. They said they had everything they need to move ahead on it. They're looking at MUTCD for Maryland and DC right now.
Yeah.
So that's standing in the way of our SHSP review. But they have everything they need, and we should hear back from them by the end of the month. We don't expect to have any significant changes, so we're comfortable with Janet talking about what we've put together and how it'll look.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. And one thing you forgot in your update was the woo.
We're celebrating.
We're very, hesitant to celebrate it, but wow, it's impressive. I didn't know all of those specific numbers, so excellent work. And then it makes me think, well, why would we change anything? We're doing a great job as a whole. Everybody's together, putting in what they know will be to push us in the right direction and continue to do that. But today I'll tell you about what we did over the past year to create and develop the SHSP for the upcoming 5 years. And we will, in my opinion, be even better than what we've done in the previous 5 years. So, there we go. So we'll start with the development of the SHSP for 26 to 30. There was a whole lot involved here, and before I forget to say thank you to everybody, so many people who had so much to do with developing this, helping us put all of these interviews and engagements and workshops together, behind the scenes advice, behind the scenes, hey, this is what you need to do, and a lot of people just come together because we know what we're fighting for, and it was just a great effort, so thank you to everybody. We'd be here all day to to say all the names, so just thank you to everybody as a whole. We interviewed a lot of heads of agencies in addition to other people who have a lot of input for us. We had certain questions that would help us direct where we should go with the rest of the stakeholders. So these heads of agencies discussed with us their agency goals as a whole for their agency, also for their particular divisions that they might have. What are the goals for the upcoming 5 years, either in general or specific goals for this year, specific goals for the next 2 years. So we got a lot of detail from those questions. Also, what are...
I think I saw a comment asking you to speak up.
Oh.
Oh.
I thought
Yeah,
that would
that's-
be.
I think
Get me bigger
And
than
I'll take this and Dennising to introduce our Deputy Secretary has joined us, so glad to have Samantha Biddle with us this morning. So.
Thank you.
So we also so not only goals, but activities. What are the tasks that these agencies are involved in? What are their intentions for upcoming years and upcoming projects that they're working on? All of these to direct us to how we should shape the next SHSP so that we can work together with all the agencies, but also all on the same path to the same goal. Without knowing what each of the agencies are doing, it's hard to know how to come together for the same goals. And of course, the big question, what does your agency need from the next SHSP? While agencies have been around forever and a day, things change. Things change drastically sometimes. So in the past 5 years compared to what you see going forward, what needs to be different? What is that one thing, that one wish list thing, if we could just do this, then we would be able to push forward even more. Community engagement meetings, that was new this time around. It was really very interesting. We enjoyed doing that. This is a flyer that you see here on the screen, a flyer that we put out to advertise to everyone in Maryland who was interested to come and talk with us about safety in their communities. We made it as simple, so to speak, as we could to really entice people to understand what we understand about traffic safety, but also coming from their point of view, from the moms at the school bus stop to the community leaders who run an HOA sort of thing. all the way up to law enforcement who just wanted to be able to have a voice to talk to people making the SHSP. So we had 4 community engagement meetings, one in Talbot, Dundalk Community College, Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland, which was actually held online because of weather at one point. And then also out in Cumberland, the Baltimore Pike Volunteer Fire Company. Tell you what, they are an enthusiastic group. They had, what were there, 50 people there maybe?
There was a room full of people out there.
It was fantastic.
Nope.
And they know how to get their points out, and they were heard. They were absolutely heard. So these were 4 community engagement meetings that we held from, let's see, February. It was all in February, so it was a very busy month. Gathered a lot of information, again, from law enforcement down to Joe Public, and of course in Cumberland, the EMS crew out there had a lot to say to just help them help Maryland. It was great. And let's see, safety partner workshop. So this was gathering stakeholders to come together and basically tell us from their point of view, much like what we did with the agencies, tell us what is it you need from the SHSP to do your job. We specifically went and drilled down to, for instance, some people from MIMS would come and we'd say, hey, MIMS employee, what are you doing? What do you need? What don't you have right now to do even better? So we went and drilled down task by task with people, project by project with people. This wasn't just an agency thing. It was actually the people, boots on the ground. What are they doing? And how can the SHSP help them do that? So, of course, we talked about the pillars of highway safety, which are engineering, enforcement, education, and EMS. And from there, we draw down to the emphasis areas. And we all know our emphasis areas. We talked about strategies. How do we promote driving down distracted driving, impaired driving, etc. In this workshop, we went into detail about the action steps for each of these strategies. For data, how do we improve data collection and analysis? How do we enhance enforcement? All of these different things. So it really then went down to the action steps. Action steps are basically the tasks that each of these emphasis areas have to fulfill the SHSP requirements. So these action steps are tasks that grantees can propose to take care of, or MHSO constantly, pulling people together to push forward all of these action steps. So we took the old action steps, the quote-unquote old ones from the 25 to 30 as they changed over that 5-year course, and we went through them and said, is this still valid, yes or no, why or why not? Do we keep it, yes or no, why or why not? What else do we need? What are the new things that we need? So the action steps have come together to, so we'll go back to how do we come up with the new action steps then? Again, what are the highest priority traffic safety projects that you specifically are working on? How do we prioritize them? And if you had unlimited resources, this is like the Santa Claus question, like guess what, you can have whatever you want. Unlimited resources, what do you want to do? That always creates just forward thought and free thinking about what is the best thing possible. And then also, what do you need but you are not getting right now to attain your goals? So all of this workshop came out with a continued list of action steps for each of the emphasis areas. I believe they're solid. I think they are doable. That was a big component of all of this workshop is it doable? Because otherwise we don't put it on the list. We can't do it. We can't attain it. And why would you? It's not something we need to talk about then. Doesn't mean forget about it, because somewhere in the future maybe you could. All right, so another interesting component is Maryland's strategic approach. So in the 20 to 25, this is what we call commonly as the wheel. It incorporates on the left there, it incorporates enforcement, engineering, emergency services, and education, and how it all comes in then with collaboration, et cetera, into the EAs and then the key groups. So that was the old wheel. And when we moved to 2630, we're using, and more to the forefront. I think we've always been using it, but it's more to the forefront what the safe system approach is suggesting to do. So you can see there in the yellow circle is the safe vehicle, speeds, roads, people, and post-crash care. So really emphasizing the safe system approach in everything that we have done in the past and everything that we're trying to do forward for the future. A methodology update. So as you know, in 2019, Vision Zero, Maryland adopted Vision Zero. So of course, we were committed to making 0 deaths by 2030. We all want 0 deaths by 2030, but unfortunately, it's not exactly, I'll put it this way. Instead, we're doing an ambitious but realistic goal, which is a 30% reduction in fatalities by 2030. This is an attainable reduction, especially after seeing the numbers from 25. I love that direction.
A good head start.
Very good direction. So we are obviously still 100% Vision Zero, and that is the absolute goal. This is where we are stepping down for a reduction in fatalities by 2030. So this is a big discussion because there's a lot of analysis behind it. There's a lot of theory and methodology behind it. So at the end of the day, we think this is the best way to approach it. And another great thing I love about this SHSP is highlighting the local SHSPs. When we spoke with NHTSA when we interviewed NHTSA about their thoughts on the SHSP, they actually asked us, please highlight the local SHSPs. Not many states are doing this. So Maryland's kicking it right now as local SHSP. So fantastic kudos to everybody involved with that. This was a great way for the locals to be highlighted, but also to show exactly what they're doing. They are not restricted by what the state's SHSP is. It is more of, well, what are your unique needs? What are your unique problems and issues in your jurisdiction? And from there, they were helped to guide themselves to get an SHSP for their local jurisdiction. There are a lot of more counties or jurisdictions in process, and plenty more as well expressing interest. It's not an easy task. It's a time-consuming task. There are a lot of people involved. There's a lot of thought and learning and research about how to do this and what to do and how to make it effective. So kudos to all the local SHSPs and their efforts going forward. This was another favorite part of mine for the SHSP is the unsiloed collaboration. That's always a theme. I can hear you in my head, Cliff, talking about this. It's always a theme for the SHSP and for the people in this room and on the phone to break through their doorways, their silos, to come together so that we can all just help each other push to where we all want to go. This was highlighting, this section in the SHSP is highlighting the Key Bridge collapse collaboration and how it just came together effortlessly because it was set up to do so. People went out of their way to help the next agency or the next people who knew or didn't know exactly what they needed to know to push forward, again, to help and to just through this tragedy. So I was happy that we were able to at least highlight the collaboration that Maryland does so well. And then, of course, the SHSP is really driven on that as well. This just shows how all of these agencies and efforts and plans come together. This is really what builds the SHSP, and good for Maryland for just putting it out there that this is exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and who we're doing it with. So just, again, another show of collaboration. And there's your first sneak peek, introducing the 2630 Maryland Strategic Highway Safety Plan. Thank you for entrusting it with us and putting it together. We, again, enjoyed every step of it, and we enjoyed working with all of you to put it together. So thank you very much, and go Maryland.
Thank you, Janet. There was one question about the 2025 fatalities. The 475 number includes all fatalities that have been reported through December 31st of 2025. However, if there was a crash that occurred in 2025 and the person that was involved dies, within 30 days later, that crash will also be included. We also are aware of a couple of crashes that did involve a fatality that the crash report has not been updated yet, and it could be because the officer, is on leave or hasn't followed up yet, or those will be added as we go along. We also know that there are agency policies that vary across the state about when they will enter a fatal crash. Some agencies wait until they have all the information back, and that includes the autopsy information. So there is a delay for some. As Christy said, these numbers will come in occasionally through the first several months of the year, so that 475 number is probably very close to what we'll wind up with, but if we wind up at 480, I will not be surprised as the cases come in. Just so you know, for how things work at the bigger picture, the fatality analysis reporting system that NHTSA runs, where they collect fatalities across the country, has not closed for 2024 yet. So there is an opportunity for crashes to come in as they're investigated and they get all the information available. The fatalities will not include if there was a person that was driving, they have a heart attack and they crash, but it was determined that the cause of fatality was the heart attack, they will not be included. So we have cases drop out as well as numbers go in. So the fluctuations go up and down a little bit, but that's kind of how we work after the end of the year. 475 is very close, but they will change.
Does that include the federal agency ones as well?
It does include Park Police.
And the dashboard will continue to be updated if those changes are made through the state police reporting system. Yes. It'll be reflected in there. That being said, as I mentioned earlier, we will reach out directly to those local jurisdictions so we have a sense of what might be outstanding that they're not quite ready to submit because of these finalization policy issues, various things that might be happening at the local level, so that we can provide a number that we will be announcing from the department, hopefully in the next 30 days or so, and that way at least gives everybody a sense where we are. But that portal number, the dashboard, is updated as fatalities are finalized through the state police system.
If I could just add too, on the local governments and MPOs, we're seeing a lot of the TAP grants and safe routes to schools and others for beyond even just the highway safety program planning, but things like the bike and pedestrian priority area planning, the planning for safe routes to schools. And these are really good initiatives that a lot of locals are taking advantage of. Not all of them are, but I want to make sure that others know that, even beyond the highway safety planning, there's other elements that there's qualified funding for.
And we have new safe routes to school coordinators about to get hired in Howard County and Anne Arundel County, so they'll have dedicated positions however long it takes to hire.
And federal funding requiremements came in after we started really making it an encouragement to have local plans, and that then unlocks federal funding for jurisdictions. So I think we were in a good spot because we had been really encouraging folks to work on those plans. But you're right, well, there's different pots of funding in these plans. Hopefully work collaboratively together as we're all moving in the same direction.
And just recently, over the holidays, Talbot County got a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant to develop a local plan and to support the Baltimore City plan, the Hartford County plan, and I think the PG County plan for Safe Streets and Roads for All.
Great.
And just speaking about grants, lots of partners on the phone. Highway Safety Office grants open to the beginning of the week, so they'll be open until the end of February. So if anybody has a good idea for highway safety projects, all the information is online, zero-md.gov.
And so I was, related to that, I was just talking to Myra about this. So for the local health departments, We have some contacts that work in injury prevention at the local health departments and trying to, I'm going to say give them a 101 on the grants that you guys offer. So it's easier for them to be ready to apply because I think, well, obviously, for most grants, you can't save it to the last minute. So you guys have some requirements and things that they should be ready to have available, and I think that's something that's on our list.
No, that's great. We've always felt like the local health departments are a wonderful resource that has different connections within the community than maybe coming at it from the public works perspective or even the law enforcement perspective. So we really appreciate that and the efforts to get that funding information available to them.
Cedric, we can turn it over to the infrastructure review.
Thank you. All right, so today, I guess we'll kind of do it two parts. We'll start with, there were 3 cases from the last meeting that we want to bring back and just kind of finalize due to some questions that were raised. And then from there, we'll go into some cases that will be heard for the first time. So there'll be 11 new cases, 3 revisits, so 14 in total. Do I have to?
Oh, he's got the. We took the power from you, sir. Down button.
Down button. Okay. Can everyone hear me online? All right.
Great.
Okay. So
I know we do, just Cedric, before you get started, I know we do have some local jurisdiction representatives online, so just want to encourage them if they, it's a crash in one of the local jurisdictions, that they want to add any, reflections based on what they know of the issue, just to either type it in or raise your hand, and we'll get you unmuted.
Yeah, we can unmute.
So, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So as I mentioned, the first 3 were presented at the last meeting, and there were some follow-up questions. We'll start with US 40 Alt and Old Camp Road. That's in Frederick, Maryland, just west of the Golden Mile. Since we didn't have the police report at the time this was presented last time, the committee here asked us to go back and revisit and just make sure our review aligned with the narrative and everything that was in the police report. So I'll go over that in a few slides. The other location, 26 in Essex, this is in the Baltimore-Lockern area, just inside the Baltimore Beltway. This is a location where we've had multiple fatalities, and there was a couple bus stops. We did follow up with MTA, and MTA will be discontinuing those bus stops based on just they were too close together, and then we didn't necessarily have a great support with crosswalk infrastructure. So they plan to discontinue those stops in April of this year. And then the final
Are they
location.
moving them somewhere else, Cedric? Because I'm sure the need is still there, so I just want to make sure we're.
They're saying they can basically discontinue those locations. They have enough other stops in the area to support the need.
I trust.
And then the final location was in Montgomery County, 119 Great Seneca Highway. This was a crash where a pedestrian was in the crosswalk, but was struck by a vehicle. So we had to go back and just make sure the signal timing for the pedestrian was adequate, which the team has. So that's been double checked. And so just going back now to the Golden Mile location, we want to represent that one.
Try again.
Does this one work?
Okay. I think it's moving now. All right. So as I mentioned, this one was just west of Golden Mile. It's right where US 40 and US 40 Alt split, just to the west of there. This crash happened at night. A pedestrian was walking in the roadway when they were hit by a westbound vehicle. There is some access management, some land use development that's occurring here, and that will provide some additional infrastructure, pedestrian sidewalks, crosswalks. That project's underway. And I think I'm struggling with this again.
Do it again.
Next one.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, there is a local development project that's underway that's been given approval. There will be installation of sidewalks, crosswalks, and pedestrian signals at the intersection of US 40 Alt and Old Camp Road. SHA will continue to monitor. Any questions on this one?
And what did the police report specifically say? This is the one that you're waiting for that report,
Correct.
right? So did it have any more narrative that was helpful, or
It pretty much aligned with
what you had
yeah.
assumed it was going to say?
Yeah.
It was just a late one, because I think this is one where we were surprised that the crash report wasn't here.
Correct.
Because it was
It was almost a year.
lengthy,
Yeah.
and it was a long time. Okay.
Are you getting the crash reconstruction reports? Is that why it took a year, or is this still just the
This-
regular acres?
This was just the acres report. Frederick County. All right, so going into the new cases that haven't been presented, there are 11 new cases. 10 of those are pedestrian. And then this is a similar theme with a lot of these crashes occurring during low or dark conditions. A kind of mixed bag of intersection, non-intersection related crashes. And then as you can see, we broke it down this time based on our context zones. And a lot of them are in that context zone D, suburban area, which is that kind of aligns with where we struggle in those zones where you start to have those moderate, those transition speeds. And then there are a few cases that unfortunately are still showing up on our controlled access highways, the freeways. So this first case is just in Arbutus, just inside the Beltway US 1. This occurred in October at night at an unsignalized intersection near the US 1 Rittenhouse Avenue intersection. So a pedestrian, according to the police report, the pedestrian was standing in the roadway trying to cross when it was struck by a southbound vehicle on US 1. The fatality infrastructure review was conducted. They did not find any kind of roadway factors that contributed to it, although they did note some things that could be updated in the area. Specifically, upgrading all the crosswalks in the corridor to high visibility style markings, and also be looking at the lighting in the corridor just to make sure our intersections and locations have proper lighting.
Sorry, this is Baltimore County, and we had some local meetings. I don't know if there's anybody from Baltimore County on the phone.
Do you want to come up, because I feel like they can hear you better.
They can hear me better? Yeah. Sorry. Usually I'm very loud, though. We talked to some folks for the Baltimore County and Carroll County cases. For this one, by the way, Baltimore County PD said if you would like to get their crash reconstruction reports, they're happy to share some information with you. We can just,
okay,
I can give you a contact name over there if you want, but she was able to pull up that whole report for me. I don't know if she's online. It's Officer Lori Hippensteel that helped out, and some folks from DPW. They said in this case, the pedestrian was standing in the fast lane.
from what the officer said. They were standing there. Not really sure why, so it wasn't an active, there may have been something else going on there. She didn't say there was any evidence of impairment per se, but that they were standing there. And the other thing the DPW folks noted, just for everybody, is that there's usually a lot of truck traffic in this area, and the way the approach was kind of coming downhill a little bit. I think you already said that. So that might also be something, I don't know if it's anything we can fix, but it could be contributing to this crash. Sure.
All right. So the next case happened. This crash occurred in the Westminster area. This was the lone bike crash that will report out today on. In this case, the person on the bike, the cyclist, was traveling northbound in the southbound lanes, and it was during that transition to dark conditions. They were trying to cross Maryland 27 when another northbound vehicle, that's where the collision occurred. So he was going north, he or she was going north, tried to cross the road, and the collision occurred with another northbound vehicle. So after conducting the review, our district office determined that they didn't really find any specific roadway characteristics that contributed, but they did note some opportunities to enhance some pavement markings there. So they will be moving forward with that after this winter season with doing some refresh of the pavement markings out there. And we'll continue to monitor this area for those kind of events for cyclists and see if there's any further need to take further measures with perhaps a bike lane or something like that.
Cedric, was it a cyclist, like a race, I don't know how to, you know what I mean? Somebody who's cycling for exercise, or was it a kid?
I don't know the answer
Somebody nearby, okay.
Yeah, not sure about that.
I will say the investigator, or the bear commander out there, I spoke with him a little bit, and he said this one, they didn't see any other factors. This was bicyclist error, trying to, being on that other side and then trying to cross over when a car was coming. They couldn't determine anything else really to,
Where along Maryland 97 or 27? I'll do Exeter.
Can you go back to the map?
Yeah, it's like close to Mount Airy or
Westminster. Yeah.
So like not necessarily near like activity centers or commercial areas, it's like it's more rural. There's a question about, if this is
probably somebody that likes to commute or for recreation, I would think, in that area.
And it was that twilight time period, almost 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of said it, Cedric, but there's 10-foot shoulders on each side, which is, typically the space that would use. And you're just looking to refresh pavement markings to remind people of that.
Yes. Okay, so the next case is in District 1 on the Eastern Shore, Worcester County. This was another crash that occurred late night, about 10:30 at night in November. Non-signalized interchange. This location is kind of on your way to like Assateague, kind of midway, if you're familiar with that area. And so there's some developments along the way, and this crash happened close to an entrance to one of those developments. So a pedestrian was in the road when they were struck by a northbound vehicle during that time. So SHA team did review it. There's no street lights at this location, so we will be looking at this location to make sure we're providing adequate lighting. We did observe there were other locations that had lighting in the corridor, so we want to look at the whole corridor and make sure we're providing the best lighting that we can. Additionally, the county was awarded a $1.5 million transportation alternative grant to provide a trail in this corridor. It looks like it'll be a potentially phased, sounds like similar to what's happening in Somerset County. But So that is something that could also provide some infrastructure in this corridor, because right now there's really not anything in place for pedestrians or bikes per se.
It's a newer development.
It's been there for some time.
I'm surprised lighting wasn't installed as part of it.
So that's what we want to look into. Why didn't this let me go back to typically for like any intersections, we try to provide some intersection lighting.
Right.
And so at this entrance, we observed we didn't have any. So we're going to just take a look at the whole corridor and make sure we're consistently providing that lighting.
Do we know from the police report where he was going or what intentions were?
No.
Okay, before we move to 3994, we'll go ahead and approve the first, or take a motion to approve the first three cases. So 3983, 3939, and 3928. We can have a motion to approve the reviews.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we need to go back and approve the one?
I
from
thought
the
about that.
prior
Yeah,
one?
we'll
I
do
think
that
we
too.
missed that.
Also want to have a motion to approve the updates of the cases that were provided at the beginning of the review. So the one case that was provided in detail, and then just the updates from the other three. We can have a motion for that.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 3994.
All right. Okay, so the next case today is, this one occurred in Baltimore County in Owings Mills. It actually occurred on the ramp from 795 onto Maryland 940, which is Owings Mills Boulevard. This happened very early in the morning, 4:30 a.m. It involved a disabled motor vehicle, and fortunately, we've seen these cases far too often. But in this particular case, the victim was trying to obtain fuel and trying to cross the ramp when they were struck.
I know we've talked about the best way to kind of track these types of crashes, just so we have a better sense. It does feel like more and more, especially when you think about highways like this, when pedestrian crash fatalities occur, it's because somebody's out of the car because of a mechanical issue or a crash. And I just wonder, I think it would help us if we could somehow, whether it's through this process, I know we talked about the crash report, trying to figure out almost like a sub check mark, somehow that we could track it. So I don't know, between Doug and Cedric, if they could have some more conversations on that, or the next TRCC, because it's just so many of them, and I know we've tried to message it in different ways with all the agencies, but maybe if we quantify it, then it gives it a little bit more power behind it, because up to this point, we really haven't had a good number to put behind that, or then percentage of VRUs that we're looking at. So somehow if we could try to get that number.
Yep. Yeah, we've, on the messaging side, on the overhead DMS boards and through our social media, we try to put out #77 messaging as much as possible. There are roadway signs to that effect, but there's a couple in here, even when there's a crash and the person gets out to look at the vehicle, then they get hit, and it's all these cases. We should just be emphasizing to stay in your car and call for support.
I mean, the number of times as we drive on the highways pretty frequently that I see people out of the cars, even young children out of the cars when it's a family that's broken down. I just want to, like a megaphone to be, please get in your car. It's scary.
In this case, I think they said the pedestrian was impaired. I don't know how much, maybe even just slightly or something like, and I don't know if the one struck was the driver or the occupant, because like you said, there were two walking on opposite sides of the ramp, but that may have been a factor.
It could be.
In getting that point across.
We could just somehow get our arms around it a little bit more, because it does seem like a big, and I know we message it in that way, but it just doesn't seem to be resonating with people. And I know when there's emergency, people panic, right? You're on especially this is probably, was it late at night?
Yeah, 4:30.
4:30 in the morning. impairment would make sense.
On call too, AAA.
Oh, yeah, so I know AAA has definitely tried with us to partner on this message, but, anyway, it's just one that's been frustrating to me to try to get out there and resonate with the public in a little bit of different.
Yeah, I mean, a case like this particular case,
Might not.
Pound 77, our chart team would have went and refueled them and
Right.
would have been it would have been easy to go buy fuel. They would have to wait,
Right.
but they'd be
Not even that
be
long.
alive.
It was in the metro area.
There wasn't
It wouldn't even wait
much
that
going
long.
on at that time, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like rush hour.
Christie, this reminds me of the move over law. Different
Mm-hmm.
scenario, but it's
Similar.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
along those lines for messaging.
I'm wondering, were the pedestrians in the roadway?
So one vehicle was in the gore, and one of the, so there were two pedestrians. One was on the western shoulder, one was on the eastern shoulder. The pedestrian that was on the eastern shoulder was trying to cross to get to the western shoulder when the collision occurred. So there were
They were
two
in the
vehicles,
travel lane.
like, it seemed like there were two vehicles, one parked on the western shoulder, one on the eastern shoulder, and they were trying to cross. I guess maybe one of the vehicles had the fuel, and
I'm not
but yeah, it
sure.
was
Yeah.
very unfortunate.
But they were in the travel lanes when they were struck, I think. It was an
Yeah.
active crossing.
Yeah.
One other thing on a different topic, and I don't know if we want to go down this path or not, we noticed, at least with some of the Baltimore County cases, and I'm not sure if it's something we can add to these reviews, they were larger vehicles. They were SUVs that were striking the pedestrians. So I don't know if that is something to get, we all talk about the larger vehicles, you have more severe injuries, and smaller vehicles and heavier weight. I don't know if that's something this group wants to go down.
On a highway like this one, I probably wouldn't have.
Not on the
Yeah,
speed road,
yeah,
but
certainly it may. I saw Tracy asked the question about driver ed. So, yes, I think there's some mention of it now, what to do in an emergency, both if pulled over by law enforcement as well as a vehicle emergency. But we are in the process of revamping our driver ed curriculum and emphasizing more of the safety messaging, integrating some more safety campaigns directly in there. So we've done that with the handbook. I know everybody's picked up a driver handbook recently, but all of our safety campaigns are now integrated into the driver's handbook, so that's kind of seamless. Like, we're not just talking about learning the rules of the road, and then we're doing these campaign messages separately. It's all integrated together. Similarly, driver ed curriculum is going to do the same thing, so that will be out shortly. But there's some information in there now, but certainly trying to emphasize that. Anything else?
There are some fields that, because I'm getting text messages, there are some fields that are on the crash report that will be able to identify some of them, because working on the vehicle is something that can be coded. But I think they would probably have to be actively working on the vehicle. So if they're on the roadside changing a tire and are struck, that would probably get coded. This one is probably going to be all in the narrative that they were walking back from getting gas, and that it might not also get coded that the vehicle, that there was a disabled vehicle and things like that. So we could pull a couple and see what the narrative says versus what's coded, but I think it's very difficult for the officer to put all those things together.
And one aspect too, for law enforcement, with some of the things you can't explain, why would a person be in the road? Sometimes there's evidence that will come across when we do the investigation that there was they're intentionally struck, that the person's trying to commit suicide. And that's not considered a crash report. That's a different CIR report. But some of these, like, why is this person there waiting to be struck? If we don't have any evidence to support that, then we consider it a crash as opposed to a suicide.
And then there's the example, I think, you mentioned, where there's a crash that happens and you get out to see the damage to the vehicle and you're struck. So there's
I think we have one.
the mechanical piece, and then there's that example. So to me, those are all in the same bucket, whether it's a mechanical issue with your car or you're in a crash, and so you get out to look at the It's just a general message of stay in your vehicle, and there's other mechanisms to address any issues that have happened out there as law enforcement or MDTAs and SHAs see response. we'll keep working on it.
Will, has SHA done like a campaign about what chart is and just kind of promoting like as a standalone, like so residents understand like that they can get gas from them? Like I'm sure most people see the yellow vehicles and see them there, but they don't know that it's free and it's a help for them. And I'm sure MDTA too, like kind of a joint campaign saying, this is what we offer. Yeah,
almost like a roadway hero kind of messaging too, and it kind of helps with the move over messaging. Maybe you guys have already done something.
We've done a lot of different things over the years, even when we're trying to recruit for people to work at Chart, kind of celebrating what they do, and done pound 77 messaging. I mean, we've done different things. There's some roadway signs that say this, kind of stay in your vehicle, pound 77 kind of things that's out there. I'm not saying we couldn't do more. We probably could, but you gotta.
Yeah, something we can continue to explore.
Yeah, I don't know if most people know that you guys bring gas, like if you run out. Like I don't.
People know all too well.
That's
why they don't call.
I will
not come across this table. Never be pedestrians in their car.
Our service goals go up when the gas price gets high. No, I mean, they really are heroes too. I think that I had the opportunity to do a ride along when I was at the authority, and there was a woman who was stranded inside the tunnel, and there you definitely don't get out of the car. And she was so grateful to, the truck had a push bumper on it, so she put it in neutral and moved right out of the tunnel, and then she could get fixed up and keep going. And just the appreciation for the work that they do is just
I had a flat tire myself on 95, and MDTA came to rescue me, but it's scary. I mean, and luckily there's a wide shoulder in the area I was in, but, I'm remembering all the messaging that we're always talking about, but I understand the panic that people feel as cars are whizzing by at 65 and higher speeds, and you feel incredibly vulnerable. And in fact, I felt bad for the gentleman that came to help change the tire, because there's so little room for error there. It's I see AAA, Regina saying they'd love to further partner on this. So yeah, it's just.
Yeah, and I'll give AAA kudos because my son, who lives out of state, got stranded in, of all places, the west side of 695. And a AAA truck, he's actually a member, but a AAA truck actually stopped, and he's like, I would have towed you out of here even if you weren't a member.
Nice.
But maybe I shouldn't advertise that, Regina, but that was
good people.
That was very,
Very
as a
nice.
father, really like to see that type of help too.
Awesome.
I think in any kind of messaging too, Chrissy, everyone in this room and on the phone knows why we're concerned about that in the car. But do people know why they need to stay in their car? I mean, if they think about it long enough, they'll probably get it. But I don't know that people do right away.
I feel like it's a target, but it's also an envelope, right? So.
Right. And also, if we're advertising this pound 77, then free gas from Maryland. Well, no.
Right.
So we don't have to pick you up off the ground. So I would like to add that.
And keeping your seatbelt on too. I think that's a really important part of the messaging, because you do that is almost like instinctual. I'm stopped, but if you're struck, obviously in that vehicle, you could be.
Or take kids out of car seats, right? Like, we're going to be here and wait.
Exactly. So.
I like the idea of tracking the number, and then that provides a moment to report out and highlight the countermeasures and safety measures that are available. So I think this all works together nicely.
Sounds good. Well, some follow-up, but we'll keep working on it.
All right. Okay, so the next crash, this crash also occurred on interstate. This was on I-70 in the Mount Airy area near Maryland 27 interchange. This happened during the day, middle of the day, around 12, just before 1 o'clock. Pedestrian entered the roadway from the right side, and vehicles tried to swerve, but one unfortunately collided with the pedestrian. So during the review, we did observe that there's an opportunity to place some more signs prohibiting pedestrians on on the ramps to just make sure that they're clear. They shouldn't be out on the interstate.
Another why question, Cedric, I'm sorry. Why were they there? What were they doing?
Sure.
Okay. There's got to be side roads.
Yeah.
Well, right.
When I touched base with the bear commander out there, he said this was a pedestrian error. I don't want to say choice, but this was a pedestrian error. They don't really know why they were in the roadway, but they were in the roadway when I guess they didn't really see logical reasons for them to be there. So I'm not saying anything was intentional, but they were there. He said signage probably might not have helped this case, but it could help in future cases for people with different patterns. But in this one, he just said it was pedestrian error being in the roadway. So I don't know that we'll know why, because they died.
All right, US 11, this crash happened in Hagerstown. This was December, again, a night crash. This happened mid-block in close proximity to a signalized intersection. There was quite a bit that we were able, based on our infrastructure review, to take away from this. The pedestrian was crossing mid-block. There was a bus transit stop in the general vicinity of where the pedestrian was crossing. There was no sidewalk or crosswalk at the intersection, the closest intersection. So there's definitely some opportunities here to enhance the infrastructure. So working with our district teams, they will be doing a full-blown feasibility study for adding sidewalk in this segment. In addition to that, we'll be looking at the intersection to add a crosswalk with the features, the countdowns and pedestrian signal.
Just looking at the time of day and the fact that it was dark and all, you mentioned the transit, Cedric. Do we know if they offer service at that time? Seems kind of late to like it. It almost made me feel like maybe that was related, and I'm kind of like, now that I look at the time of day, I'm like, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, we could follow up with that. That's a good question. When we looked at it, we thought like 8 would be maybe still viable, but
okay.
But yeah, if you can, on this photo on the left side, you can see there's no sidewalk on that side, and at the intersection, we have opportunities to do some enhancements there. But yeah, we'll follow up on the transit service hours of operation.
Part of the strategic highway safety plan too, US 11 as part of the vulnerable road user assessment had a lot of interest. We have a VRU project south of this area. This is pretty far away from it, further north, but this is a hot topic for the region.
Mm-hmm. Do we do any overlay of transit routes on at least the state routes to better understand what that kind of dynamic is, the pedestrian roadway challenges potentially?
The VRU safety assessment looks at both bicycle spine network, transit routes as part of the factors in the weighting of whether the corridor is considered high risk.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd answer the question, yes. Could we do more? Maybe.
Yeah, it's not like a statewide look. It's looking at those particular corridors.
Right. When we do the VRU safety assessment.
In rural areas, I'm guessing it becomes more challenging with less fixed route transit and more on demand service as well. Hard to track from a data perspective.
Yeah, it's something University of Maryland could.
Yeah. And is it part of the VRU project, is it a proactive as opposed to reactionary? And I'm getting that from somebody very smart next to me. We know what happened here. We know all of the components that made it happen for whatever reasons. And can we pick that up and say, well, look, that's a similar spot because there's housing here and there's Target over here. Is that part of the VRU look?
I want to say sort of. Go ahead. You answer first, and then I'll add.
Sort of. So it is based a lot on, it's a mix, I would say. We do look at the crash history, but we're also bringing in short trip opportunity areas. We are looking at the context and other things, and that's just to identify the corridors, but we also are looking at corridors in I guess, in parallel, trying to identify places to upgrade the infrastructure without necessarily being a VRU. Okay. So we're kind of blending them together. There's a list that we've developed, but we're looking at more of a proactive approach. Even though something may not be on the list, are there opportunities, and how can we take those lessons and apply them to the VRU corridors?
I'll just add that I was recently at the town hall for Kensington and Wheaton, the two pedestrian fatalities that occurred there. And there's always a lot of, every local community wants you to use predictive crash data and to do more proactive measures. And we're for that. We have crash prevention funding within our budget, and we do targeted crash prevention, measures at different places. However, if you look at the VRU safety assessment, the draft, I think if I'm not mistaken, don't hold me to the number, but it's around 116 corridors statewide. And if you look at how we're prioritizing where the funding goes, the first pedestrian safety action plan project that we put out on Maryland 650, it has a fatal crash rate that's 14 times higher than the statewide average for vulnerable road users. So we need to prioritize our investments, and I don't want to say chasing crashes and fatalities, but you're not going to get to the point where you can say, well, I'm going to go deal with the proactive locations first, when you have a big backlog in our history of areas that still have a ton of known issues. And so our investments largely are dealing with those areas where we know we have problems. And I like, rationally, it's kind of hard to argue to do the other. However, once in our future, as we continue the Vision Zero goal and we start to knock out corridors, Cedric and team have been working with the CAT Lab and University of Maryland and others about looking at hard braking and hard turns and all the different data that's out there to be more predictive and proactive and all of that. So it's like a yes to both, but if you look at where the money is going, the majority of it is dealing with the highest risk locations that we have a lot of known problems, because we just have so many of them, frankly, that we've got to deal with it first.
Well, a lot of the safety funding, the Highway Safety Improvement Program funding, they flex, or whatever it's called, down to locals, the open proposal period that's mentioned earlier about to open up. A lot of those, correct me if I'm wrong, are systemic and network. They're broader improvements.
Yeah.
They may be based on, like you said, this design, this type of location, but go out and look and upgrade a lot of the other ones to prevent it. So that's just another aspect of what you're doing.
Before you go to the next one, we'll entertain a motion for 3994, 3941, and 3959.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 3934, Cedric.
All right. So this crash occurred on the very busy 586 corridor in Montgomery County. This was near the closest intersection was with Robindale Drive. This happened early hours, 5:24 in the morning in October, and this is one of those transition suburban areas that's really what we struggle with in these corridors. So a pedestrian was trying to cross from south to north in the westbound lanes when they were struck by a vehicle. The team did go out and determine that streetlights were present in the area. The traffic control devices were operating. There are some sidewalk gaps in this section of the corridor, and the closest signal is about 650 feet away. So again, Transit 586, I believe, is still Montgomery County's highest transit corridor. So a lot of transit activity, a lot of pedestrian activity in that corridor. So I know SHA's invested a lot of new projects in this corridor. We're working with the county to add additional signals. We are being proactive in trying to add signals where they may not meet traditional signal warrants, but just based on some other factors, transit, just the context that we're in and the distance in between, controlled crossings. So those are some proactive measures that we're working with the county, and of course 586 is, where the big transit project that the county will be bringing forth as well.
The
pedestrian trying to get to transit, is that what it appeared from the crash analysis?
Potentially, that we can't say for sure.
Right, but it appears that way.
Yeah, Veers Mills, I saw Peter's comment in the chat that Veers is a tough corridor. As Cedric mentioned, the bus rapid transit program that the county is working on, we've been partnering with them to ensure that the improvements have complete streets elements along the corridor, and Montgomery County as a county is like super committed to that and does a great job. But it is a tough corridor with ADA issues, missing sidewalk segments, lack of mid-block crossings. We have various different projects in different states to help deal with that, but then BRT will help to deal with a lot of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
The next crash is also in Montgomery County, 355 in Marinelli Road. This location, as you can see in the picture, maybe not, but this is adjacent to major transit stop. So this is a heavy intersection for pedestrian use. A lot of development here, and so this crash happened in November. It was at night, towards close to 11 p.m. It was at the signalized intersection. So a vehicle was traveling southbound. They had the green pedestrian tried to cross the road, according to the officers' report, against the walk signal from the west side. Unfortunately, the vehicle was unable to stop in time and collided with the pedestrian. So this intersection, SHA has already installed leading pedestrian, just due to the nature and the heavy pedestrians. There's a lot of features for leading pedestrian intervals. The crosswalks are there. We're working with the county on some bike markings potentially here, and the protected bike lanes are along Marinelli Road. So we're working with them on ways to maybe enhance that further. But that was the outcome of this investigation.
Looks like it was raining too, so it could have been the pedestrian was in a hurry to get where they were going.
355, similar story too, with BRT program with Montgomery County that we're partnering on. We've got an embedded person at District 3 helping to keep that project moving. They've advertised and have issued their notice of award for their contractor. So they're actively moving. That has a strong complete streets focus. This was one of our pedestrian safety action plan corridors, is one of our PSAP corridors. But the improvements we're deferring because, again, the county is going to make those improvements as part of the project.
One of the questions from the chat was about the timing interval. Did they look at the timing interval when they looked at the?
Yes. The signal timings were checked and found to be adequate.
Thank you.
The metro station is located at the northeast corner, although there is a pedestrian underpass.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
The
across 355.
Yeah, so in that northeast corner, I think you can kind of see the alignment of the rail tracks parallel there.
It's like the northwest corner. So it's just
okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
But there is a pedestrian underpass underneath 355 on the north side of the intersection as well.
And this intersection unfortunately has a history with pedestrian crashes. Given, as you can see, this is a very wide intersection, a lot of heavy movements, left turn movements, and that seems to be the prevalent crash type when people are making left turns or turning movements. That's where the crashes are happening. So there were, I believe, 4 crashes in the last 10 years at this intersection, and 3 of them were those turning movement type crashes. This is the crash that involved a through movement.
You mean 4 pedestrians?
4 pedestrians.
Fatal.
Yeah. Yes. Not fatals, crashes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just one they wanted to, or no, it's your roadway. I've heard people are doing more no right turn on reds, and I didn't know it.
Yeah, so like no turn on red, the leading pedestrian, try to minimize those conflicts.
Still happening.
All right, so next crash, we're jumping to, this one's in Baltimore County, in the Perry Hall region. So this crash occurred in close proximity to a signalized intersection. It occurred in December. It was just after dark. And this is also a context zone D, a suburban context. So pedestrian was crossing from the west to the east. There's 2, let me go back just for visual. So the Perry Hall Marketplace is on the east. It's a pretty large shopping center. On the west, there's another shopping center that has a lot of stuff in there. I know because that's where my kids learn to swim. But so there is an existing one leg to cross, I guess, from east to west. So as part of the review, we found that there's opportunities to potentially add more crosswalks at that intersection. So we'll be moving forward with a project to install APS CPS at that Perry Hall Marketplace intersection. And we are also looking at adding countdown pedestrian signals for both the east and west legs. So right now, there's only one leg that has a crosswalk. We're looking to add significantly to the other legs so that we have a complete opportunity to cross.
That's awesome. That was the only thing that really came from the county folks. It's just such a challenging area, and they didn't even know if more crosswalks would help or not, but that's nice you're investigating it. And they said that there was no impairment in this. It was just a lot of traffic and a lot of foot traffic, I guess, as well.
Okay, thank you. We can.
Was there a question going back to the prior one too?
No, it was a comment
that
there's no turn on red there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a comment from White. 3930. Sure.
Of course. Sorry, I'm behind. I'm slowly reacting to the.
No.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Because I was also thinking about White Flint Metro and how much I've used it, but I wasn't remembering the pedestrian pathway that is underground. So I'm wondering if per consideration would be things like if it's that lighting in such a way at like night people are crossing on the street as opposed to using a pedestrian walkway or a tunnel because of the safety lighting features of that, and is that part of any review or is that not part of this?
So I don't know if we looked at that, but yeah, that's something to consider. I'm not as familiar with the underpass there.
Wade may know better. It's designed like a metro, like a Wilmata facility, so it might be. I'm not sure, but
okay.
And I don't know if it's time of day restricted. Sometimes there's gates to prevent use for nefarious purposes, off hours.
Yeah.
When the system's closed.
We've also put up, in certain areas where we have overpasses or underpasses, we've put up median shielding that directs them so that you don't really have a choice to cross. But then interestingly, in at least one location I can think of, they broke the shielding so that they could still cross anyway. We try to guide people to the crossings that we want them to go when we can, but
But to the point, it's close.
humans are smart.
Other safety.
I understand what you mean though, Shuba. I'm thinking in the dark, even 5:30 or 6 in the dark, if I'm alone, I may not want to go under.
Yeah, I might not go the underground pathway. I was just saying,
I break the shield though.
yeah, and I think, I mean, if that is well lit, but like if that's the option, and if that, for me, lighting would make a difference as a pedestrian, and we were talking about that in a different location in our, I want to say here, or maybe near Berkeley University, there's also like an under here where some of the pedestrians could go, but I don't know that people would go there because of the lighting issues.
Yeah.
So we were talking, so this reminded me here, just for consideration, why they might, even with, I don't know if that's the arrangement there. I don't think that's the arrangement there, but if this is what we'd encourage people to do, it would make a difference to me.
Wade did say that most crossings are at grade because there is extra time involved to go to the stairs, to go down the stairs, to go underneath, and to go back up the stairs. So they're taking the quicker way.
Mobility access too, if it's stairs or steep ramps, maybe people with mobility issues don't.
There's challenges and pros and cons with each of these. We recently had a meeting with Metro about an overpass that has an elevator that's out of service, and you kind of
perfect world.
There is no perfect world. There's no perfect scenario. We frankly get requests to install pedestrian overpasses quite a bit. Those are very expensive, and so it's kind of challenging. Like, do I want to fix 100 crosswalks statewide or spend all of that money at one overpass? And where is the juice worth the squeeze? And so we do a lot of different undulations to figure out how to prioritize the investments for all of, the hundreds of thousands, frankly, and when it comes to crosswalks, thousands of locations that communities want us to improve.
You can entertain a motion for 3934, 3946, and 4012.
I'll make a motion. Approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 3935, home stretch.
All right, so this crash occurred in Prince George's County on Maryland 5 near Coventry Way. This also involved, unfortunately, a disabled vehicle, and a pedestrian was struck as they were outside of their vehicle as a result of that crash. So a disabled vehicle was stopped in the northbound lanes, but facing the opposite direction of Maryland 5. And when another vehicle approached, the driver was outside of the vehicle, and fortunately, the collision occurred with that subsequent vehicle.
Do we know if that other driver was impaired or distracted, anything on their contributing circumstance? I'm just thinking back to the move over law again. Wasn't on the report.
So our review didn't really find any kind of roadway issues here. It's not, pedestrians aren't really supposed to be there given the circumstances. So yeah, this ties into our previous discussion on what other strategies can we kind of look into to try to get that awareness, spread the awareness.
So it was a disabled vehicle in the lane.
Yeah, so the disabled vehicle is in lane, there's 3 lanes, lane 2, and there was another vehicle in lane 3, and the pedestrian was outside of the vehicle, and that's when the collision occurred.
And a third vehicle rear-ended at first in lane 2?
No, the vehicle 2 was pointed in the wrong direction.
Okay.
And it just seems like the passing vehicle hit the pedestrian, not necessarily the other vehicle.
But we don't know about the crash that disabled that first.
Yeah, we don't know.
I think that's what you were trying to get at, right?
Yeah. Okay. So he was aware that the driver who struck the pedestrian was aware that there was a prior crash, something was happening, he was aware?
We don't know. Yeah, I don't think, I would say probably not, but.
Okay.
So for context, we're doing these reviews, the infrastructure reviews, right? And we do receive the police reports as well with our review, but we're focusing on the infrastructure.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Then next crash, this is in Anne Arundel County. This is in the Severna Park area. Maryland 2 at one of the many junctions of Baltimore-Annapolis Road Boulevard. This crash happened at just after dark. I guess it was night at that point, around 7 p.m. It was in the close proximity of a signalized intersection. There are transit stops on the north side of the intersection. And so after we conducted our review, the crash occurred about 50 feet away from where the crosswalk was. So the pedestrian was outside of the crosswalk when the collision occurred. As I mentioned, there are two bus stops on that side of the intersection. And so there is a marked crosswalk on the north leg, but that's the only leg where there is a crosswalk. There's also very limited sidewalk in this area, just basically the sidewalk ramp and the connection to the transit stop is where you find the sidewalk, and outside of that, there's no other sidewalk in the area. So this is within one of our PSAT project limits. So those limits extend from Maryland 648 to Maryland 177, and those details will be considered when we develop the mitigation for that project. Also, in the interim, the crosswalk markings at the existing signalized intersection will be upgraded to the high visibility, and that'll be part of a resurfacing project later this year in the summer.
I think that wraps up the infrastructure reviews. Motion for 3935 and 3963.
Make a motion.
In a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. That concludes the formal agenda for today. If there are any comments from, we've got a good crowd online. If there are any comments or topics for discussion, you can either type them into the chat or please raise your hand and we can unmute you and put you live on the speaker. You have that's the other slide. While we're waiting for anybody that might want to have a comment, we do want to announce that the Lifesavers Conference, which is the largest highway safety conference in the country, will be in Baltimore on April 19th to the 21st. So if you would like to attend, registration is open. Early bird registration is open for about another month. They've got a good crowd signed up already. Lots of topics available, a lot of them appropriate to what we discuss at these meetings. So if anybody would like to take the opportunity to attend, it'll be at the Convention Center in Baltimore in a couple of months.
Okay. It's not public comment.
That's okay.
I would want to talk to somebody about the Safe Routes to School work project stuff. Is there somebody you recommend I connect with first?
Is that about actually moving a project forward that's already started or getting funding? I think.
Yes. Well, okay. So we have a very small project in a different unit than mine in cancer and chronic disease that works on Safe Routes to School, and I don't know that they're necessarily connected with the larger
for Baltimore City, that's Safe Routes to Schools?
No, this is the state health department, so.
I just didn't know what jurisdiction, are they doing it all across the state?
We are statewide, but it's not, like, there's not enough money. It's a very tiny thing, right? But anything we can do to connect it to, like, whatever else is happening in the state and or leverage, like if, you know, to complement existing funding or whatever, they're, like, I just don't have a sense of the landscape, so.
So there's certain
all
highway.
of the above.
Yeah, certain highway safety funding that Chrissy through the Maryland Highway Safety Office has that's different than specifically the Safe Routes to Schools funding. That funding bucket is administered through State Highway as part of our responsibilities with the federal aid program. And our point of contact for that is Cheryl Ladota. I'm happy to get you better details on that after this meeting. If you want to sync up for a second, I can shoot you and Cheryl an email mutually and get that conversation started.
There are conversations that are happening about Safe Routes to School funding, its eligibility and applicability for different uses. And so as we approach federal reauthorization next year, there's some kind of movement happening at a national level to try to look at expanding eligibility of Safe Routes to School funding and looking at like other purposes and things. But certainly, you know, Will's team does a great job in, you know, awarding, implementing, and overseeing a lot of the more infrastructure-based projects, but there are more like programmatic staff support things that are done too. And some of that's shifted over the years due to kind of how the federal regs have shifted and changed, but we're always trying to be, you know, a voice for expanded use because we know that there's so much more that needs to happen in addition to just the infrastructure side of things.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so I think I just need to figure out the right connection.
And it's possible there are, as was mentioned earlier, there are counties that already have Safe Routes to Schools coordinators. So it's possible that like the right person is connected at the county level. If you're, as Samantha was saying, you know, we can, if there's a specific infrastructure need and there's an interest in a project, that could be through us. So it might depend a little bit, but Cheryl will be able to guide you regardless of what your actual interests are. And you know, if you got...
Is there one person who can give me the overview? And
that she can do that,
connect me in. I think that would be really helpful. And I think if there's a health angle that we can incorporate from the public health perspective, we're happy to just know more about your programs and services. That would be great.
I'll say the Montgomery County coordinator is a rock star by every definition of that, and he used to be the one in Baltimore City before he went to Montgomery County, and he mentioned to me he's hopefully maybe, I don't know if it's this calendar year or next year, going to try to put together every couple of years, have a conference for or a meeting for Safe Routes to School coordinators to kind of talk and bounce off each other for ideas, stuff like that. So I'm sure Cheryl's going to bring up Dawn's name, I'm sure, when she talks to you.
Great. Thanks.
That'll be a good connection.
All right. Thanks for that little side. I appreciate the opportunity to read exactly what this was for, making those connections.
It is quiet online, so if anybody in the room has any comments, we can take those. Otherwise, we are good until April 16th. Submit your taxes and come back.
Survive the legislative session.
Yeah, I really want to thank everybody. I think it was a really robust conversation. I think as we've evolved with these meetings, it's been more and more helpful in terms of looking at the dynamics that are happening out there, understanding that and how we can lean in. I appreciate the locals as well as some of the advocates who've attended to really add some color to the conversation as well. We all know this is a partnership and it requires all of us kind of pulling in the same direction. So just big thank you to everybody. I do believe that our progress is in large step because of the fact that everybody works so collaboratively together and is willing to take an honest look at things, which I know is sometimes hard to do when these kind of tragedies happen. So thanks to everybody. I appreciate your efforts. Anything else, Tim, for the good of the order? If not, we will adjourn until April. Thank you.